Alright people, we are back for week 3 of the second season of the Battle Hub Draft League. Been a bit busy over here at the studio, so we haven't put out any more recaps in a little bit, but we're going to keep the train rolling here. We got a lot of epic matches, isn't that right, Tracy? So what's a full breakdown of the week so far?
Absolutely, Voxy. So here's what we're looking at. We have the rematch between emeraldminer and Capt B-Nard from Season 1. We've got newcomers like Almond versus returning coaches like Notorious H.I.M, as well as Icy Dude versus JustWeavile. Then Biradu versus Lionel, Scorpion versus Raymon, kind of a big reimagining of the Season 1 semi-finals, as well as Stefan versus Pokemaster, a Praetor versus Brandon, and Arcaniner versus DaBest. We don't have footage for JustWeavile versus Icy Dude, and we only have a 30-second clip from DaBest versus Arcaniner, but we will leave a description of the match as well as the standings for week 3 at the end of the video.
Absolutely, very epic matches. Let's get into our first game of week 3, emeraldminer versus B-Nard.
Alright, Tracy, well, we're here with the Emerald versus B-Nard rematch. They fought previously in Season 1, and they're here again in Season 2, so what are we thinking here, Tracy?
Well, Foxy, you know, it's kind of thematic because they've got the Hawlucha and they've got the Pincurchin, and that was on B-Nard's team last time. B-Nard is still keeping the Goodra, which he used against Emerald previously in Season 1, so that'll be interesting. They've also got big new threats like the Palafin and the Glamora, so we'll have to see what happens. You know, one of the biggest weaknesses for Hawlucha is, of course, priority, and Jet Punch being one of the strongest forms of priority in the game. We see the lead Kilowattrel on B-Nard's side. We're going to see them switch out into the Toxtricity as Volt switch out. Toxtricity also Volt switches out into the Heatran, which is going to take a Scald from that Goodra, pop its Air Balloon, as we're going to see a Scald go into the Ogerpon switch, and he's going to activate his Water Absorb. But the Play Rough is just not going to do enough, Foxy, as now we're going to see the Sludge Bomb as well.
Yeah, that's right, Tracy. And he gets Poison too, which is crucial because now Ogerpon is going to be taking that crucial chip. And Ogerpon is absolutely a key player in this game because it would absorb an otherwise very powerful Jet Punch from Palafin. We're going to see the Pincurchin come in to set up the electric terrain. You're going to be careful about that because it also helps boost Kilowattrel, but the Ogerpon is going to remove that terrain and set up the grassy terrain. Could see a potential grassy glide here, but emeraldminer is just going to get some spikes, then go out into the Heatran. Ogerpon is setting up with the Trailblaze here and an SD as well in this Heatran's face. Doesn't have to worry about the Flash Fire because, of course, the Mold Breaker, and Tommy Tomato is going to go down to that IV Cudgel as Electro comes in to set up the electric terrain once again for Hawlucha, as it's going to get a nice little defense boost to be able to try to tank hits from this Ogerpon, as it does go for the grassy terrain. So a bit of a risk on Emerald's part, because if it had gone for Ivy Cudgel, it was finished crit and would have just taken out the Hawlucha right then probably. We do see the Glamora come out as Hawlucha is going to set up a Bulk Up and Drain Punch, which is not going to do quite enough, but does a solid amount. This is actually a max roll. It was revealed later. Going to get up those T-Spikes as goes for the Sludge Wave to get some big crucial damage. That massive special attack stat from Glamora doing big damage to this Hawlucha. As with the Black Sludge and the Grassy Terrain, it is going to be enough to keep this Mon alive. Going from a max roll to a medium roll, as now 2 layers of T-Spikes start from this Glamora. And we're going to see the Mortal Spin to remove those spikes that he set up earlier, and poison the Hawlucha. Now, Acrobatics is going to take out the Glamora, but at this point now, Hawlucha is so weakened with poison that they're going to try to switch in to take the Jet Punch to get some recovery on the Ogerpon, but B-Nard makes an epic play and switches it out into the Kilowattrel, putting it in a very great position. And because of poison earlier, Ogerpon's simply going to go down. And now there are no more switch-ins to the Jet Punch. We're going to see the Toxtricity come in to absorb the T-Spike. Boom Burst just goes without even having a Terra. That's just the power of Boom Burst from Toxtricity, as Palafin is going to come in, brings in the Lucia to sack it off. as Lucia's not going to do much. Gets up some electric terrain, so at least Iron Valiant will have a speed boost, but that's not going to matter in the face of priority. Gets up some spikes in order to deal more damage to the Palafin in the back, as Stealth Rocks also go up in order to make the Toxtricity take more chip. As now we're going to see yet another spike, and I think, yep, there's the EQ onto the Pincurchin, which is going to just take it out. And now they're going to take some spikes on the Ogerpon, but because the Toxtricity is Scarf, it is going to be able to outspeed it, and will basically 2 KO it because the Ogerpon switched in. Now Jet Punch comes through. The Terra, just to kind of show off the Terra Dark, really could use a Terra Grass there, although the Stealth Rocks might have kept it out of range even with the Terra. Jet Punch is not going to straight out KO Iron Valiant. There's no close combat. Close combat could probably kill the Palafin from there. Goes for a Shadow Sneak, but it is not enough, as now because of the Life Orb, it is easily going to be in range of that next Jet Punch. Almost went down to the Life Orb, honestly. And at that point, it is going to be GG's. They still had the Mudsdale in the back on B-Nard's side. That's a pretty safe victory for Captain B-Nard. Very epic game. Very close, but at the end of the day, that's what happens when you lose your Ogerpon. As now we are going to get into Almond versus H.I.M. Very epic game that we've anticipated, as we're going to see the possibility of webs. Actually, there's no webs because this is Rabambi's Choice Scarf. Choice Spec, sorry. We do see the Choice Scarf Crocodile, which looks pretty good into their team, honestly. I mean, you got mons like Dragapult, that can outspeed potentially. We're going to see the Intimidate. This is not a Moxie Crocodile, this is an Intimidate Crocodile, but that is key. Getting the attack drop on this Gyarados will come in clutch. As it goes for the Stone Edge, does manage to land, but because the Gyarados Terrasilize is not going to take much from it. As resets its attack stat to neutral, and gets +1 speed. You do want to be careful about this though. They send in the Rotom, as they're going to go for the big bad Waterfall. Neutral Waterfall still does a heck of a lot to Rotom, as Gyarados reveals some more leftovers recovery. Another Waterfall is simply going to take it out. So now this Gyarados is at +1/+1. That can send back in the Crocodile here. Actually, it'll go Golden Go first, as it goes for the Earthquake into the Golden Go. Takes a lot of damage. Goes for the Thunder Wave, and it misses. So this did not work out in Almond's favor, unfortunately, as now the Gyarados is simply going to get another attack boost. You can see what they were going for there, as they wanted to get the Thunder Wave off to try to set up, but at the end of the day, this next play was just safer for Almond, going for the Gunk Shot, even though you do risk the miss, obviously. And Thunder Wave, has a 90% chance versus, I think, like 80-85% chance on Gunk Shot, but still, sucks to miss. As a Pult is going to come in, simply U-turn out. That's nice and safe on their part. Still don't know what item this Pult is, but they are going to send in Raw Sewage, as the taunt, because of the Prankster not affecting the Darkness, is not going to affect it. Goes to the knockoff. We do see the knockoff come off from the Grafai now, as takes off the Block Sludge to get rid of their recovery at the very least. As Crook comes in, is going to get the Intimidate. You can safely go for the Earthquake here, as it just raw takes it out, and Clef is now going to come in as Ogerpon comes in. This is the third time in a row that this Clefable has taken on a Clef. H.I.M has had to go through the Ogerpon Gambit. Gets a crit with the Trailblaze, does reveal the Rocky Helmet, and just the same way that H.I.M beat B-Nard last time, he's going to use Encore to lock this Ogerpon in to the Trailblaze, as it's going to get a second crit. Actually, it does a lot. So if this Clefable didn't go for Moonlight, it could have potentially died to its next attack, but because of that Moonlight, it's easily going to survive. And obviously a very bad situation for Almond. You're going to want to get out of there. Go out into Rabambi, as you can do some pretty good ship with the specs. They have set up the Stealth Rocks already, so now they're going to go for the Moonblast into them. Sets up the Terra Fire, sorry. Gets a Spatak drop, so that it is able to survive this next Moonblast. As now you can go for another Moonblast to take it out. As Zuko comes in, goes for the Mach Punch because it's no longer 4 times resistant and is going to take it out. As Crocodile comes in, goes for the Earthquake on the Sand Slash. Does like 45 or so. Goes for the Earthquake on the incoming Ogerpon, and that is just going to take it out, Go back out into Crocodile to get the attack drop, and now into the Sand Slash. Actually reveals that it was a roll the entire time, so Ogerpon did not necessarily have to go down, but you couldn't tell based on that calc. Goes for the Mach Punch on the Crocodile, as we do see the Earthquake come out. They know that they're Scarf, so they're going to have to go for the Mach Punch. Draco is going to come in and take out this Scarf Crocodile, though, as it revealed it was Specs Dragapult the entire time. So, very well played on H.I.M's part, and GG's to Almond as well, as now we are into Biradu versus Lionel. Pretty epic match. We do see the Conkeldurr back. Had a week off last time, but it's back here for Lionel, as we've got a pretty threatening team of Screens plus Garchomp. That's always pretty scary. They've also got Specs, Electrode, a Life Orb, Brute Bond. Interesting to see what that will do. And, you know, Milotic is always just going to be a Pokemon, so this is a very scary team coming from Biradu. We got to see what Lionel has to counter. Of course, Bronzong is the natural Garchomp counter, resistance to both of the stabs. Let's see what Biradu has to take that on. The Bronzong is going to trick the sorry, not the Wigglytuff, the Screamtail, Lightning-tail. I was getting them mixed up. As gets rid of its Light Clay, so when it sets up its screen, it's only going to be active for 5 turns. Does go for the Reflect here, as now you are going to see the Encore on the Ice Punch. Because of the Lagging Tail, that's actually better in this case, because they were able to lock them into the move on the first turn and get in their Iron Moth, which, interestingly enough, this is a pretty cool set. They have T-Spikes, so when the Snorlax comes in the next time, they set up the T-Spikes now on the Snorlax, but the next time it comes in, or anything comes in, it'll get poisoned, as there's no poison type to absorb them. Goes for the Crunch, does absolutely nothing to the Screamtail. The Reflect does wear off, but this is the perfect opportunity for Screamtail to get them back up. Of course, Lagging Tail means it's going to go after the Snorlax. Gets the Reflect up, goes hard into Garchomp on another Facade, as it takes some more Rough Skin. Gets some Leftovers recovery. As now we're going to send in the Bronzong, because Bronzong knows it can take on pretty much any hit. Goes for the Substitute. This is a big play for Biradu, as now Garchomp is simply going to SD, and this Bronzong reveals the only damaging move it has apparently for this Garchomp is Bulldoze, and that is not going to take out this Substitute. I think it does about, the calc show does about 12 to 14%, so you need like some high-end rolls to be able to do 25% to this thing. Actually, never mind. Didn't matter at all, because the Reflect was up, so it was doing even less. Did not have a chance to take out this Substitute at all, as we are going to see the Poltergeist come in at this point. This Garchomp is +4, and it is going to, because they know that Poltergeist is the Terra Captain, it is going to go for the Earthquake, anticipating some type of Terra to potentially take this thing out, as the Earthquake is easily going to take it out. Snorlax gets poisoned, like we said, and another Earthquake is just going to keep on coming for this Snorlax, as Biradu is sitting very nice. Any of the damage that they took from Substitute, they are recovering with the Leftovers. T-Tar comes in, unless it's Scarf, which apparently it's not. It's not going to be able to take out the Substitute as Volcarona comes in. This is a +4 Earthquake. This is easily also going to be able to take out this Volcarona. Did not stand a chance. Probably died to +2 if we're being honest here. And I think that the last mon standing is this Conkeldurr, which does not even, I don't think it even has Mach Punch. It's just going to get hit by an Earthquake. And this Conkeldurr is going to go down, and that is a straight up 6-0 victory on Biradu's part. GG's to them. I think Icy Dude also managed to achieve that, getting a 6-0 with Garchomp in Season 1. Interesting, we see the same thing happening in Season 2. But we are going to see now Scorpion versus Raymon, as Scorpion has a very cool team. They got Banded Zamazenta going to be doing a lot of damage, as well as Specs Thundy. We've got the Sash lead Cleavor, as well as the Battle Bond Grin. Eject Button Hatterene will allow it to come in on something, trying to get up a hazard, and eject button out if they hit it with an attack. So that's pretty cool. We're going to see the Terra immediately on the Probopass. It was going to be resistant to the Snorlax either way, but they probably Terra'd anticipating a potential close combat, and they would go from being 4 times weak to it to being neutral to it. as they go for the stab body press. Probopass has a very high defense stat as well as SPDF stat, so it's going to do a pretty good chunk to this Cleavor. Going to go for the close combat to do a lot of damage. It does turn out to be a critical hit as the Volt Switch is going to come out and not quite take this thing out. Doesn't have the best offensive stats on Probopass, so Volt Switch does not kill, but the Aqua Jet on Azumarill will. As Thunder forces out the Nigel to come back in. Gets some damage from the Stealth Rock. Is going to go for the Volt Switch and take it out. Not sure if the crit mattered in terms of killing it on the Volt Switch, but keep in mind it's a Specs Thunder, so it's going to do a lot. We do see the Wild Charge come out onto the Corviknight as it goes for the Defog. Wants to get rid of those rocks for its Excalibur on the back. As we do see a second Wild Charge. Choice Band Zamazenta is putting in the work right now, being able to KO Corv after rocks. As Salazzle now comes in, and because of Zamazenta's huge 138 speed stat, it is going to outspeed this Salazzle and almost OHKO it straight up. As we see now it goes for the Sludge Bomb. And going to switch out. Now that this thing is in very well chipped, the Excalibur is now going to come in, and we do see the Wild Charge. As it is going to go for the Dragon Dance here. Because of Zamazenta's speed stat, if that is a adamant Excalibur, it is actually still outsped by Jolly Zamazenta. So they probably wanted to ensure that the Zamazenta was low enough that they could kill it with Ice Shard. In case they were adamant. We do see the Hatterene come in. Not a very good switch here because now the eject button is simply going to swap them out. But they can go into Oricorio. This is basically the only thing that they have that can live a hit potentially from this Excalibur. Is going for a +1 Glaive Rush. Does not get the kill. This was a roll. It was about a 50-60% chance. And because of the 2 times damage after Glaive Rush, the Terra Ghost Revelation Dance is going to get the kill on the Excalibur, as now Adelph is easily going to be able to come in and outspeed the Oricorio though and take it out. The Thundurus is going to come in now and go for the big Specs Thunderbolt. Azelf does not have the best defenses, so it's easily just going to knock out in one hit. As Hatterene is going to come in on the incoming Salazzle. Goes for the Endeavor actually, which probably do way more than a Sludge Bomb would do to Thundurus, so good plan. Scorpion trying to preserve HP. Gets back in the Zamazenta, which is going to be able to outspeed and go for the close combat onto the Salazzle. But they are locked in to close combat now versus a potential Belly Drum Azu. Doesn't Belly Drum, not sure about their set. They might be banded based on how they're playing it, so they didn't have to worry about it. Goes for the Thunderbolt onto the Azumarill and is easily going to be able to take it out there. Yeah, if they were Belly Drum, the Belly Drumming on the Zamazenta was probably the play there, but I don't think that they were. So, we now are into Pokemaster versus Stefan, and we do see the weakness policy on the Roaring Moon, so they're just trying to get greedy with all types of setup there, as we do see also the Sash Ariados lead, as well as the Assault Vest Sandy Shocks, the champion and mascot from Season 1. Though without the ability to Terra, it does leave it much more opened in terms of its defenses. Can't really live as many hits as it was used to. But on Pokemaster's side, we do see mons like Chandelure and Meowscarada and Iron Shreds. The Iron Shreds could put in some work if it is a booster speed, as well as the Sableye and the what's it called? The Galarian Weezing that could help live some hits with its Fairy type from the Roaring Moon. We're going to see lead Ariados versus lead Espeon. And both suicide leads here, as they're going to try to bring each other down to their respective Focus Ashes. Going to get some Leech Life recovery, though, for the Ariados, as going to get some nice Giga Drain damage. This nice little 1% chip on this Galarian Weezing comes out into the Sandy Shocks. Goes for the nice neutral play, the Will-O-Wisp, the mid-ground play onto the Sandy Shocks. As they're going to want to get out of there. They don't want to take a potential hit, though they have revealed, because they're not neutralizing gas, they are Earth Power. But, you know, Sandy Shocks does a lot of damage. They're going to sack out the Espeon here, as now there's no more Magic Bounce, so we do see the Iron Shreds as going to activate its Booster Energy, which gives it the Speed Quark Drive boost, Goes for the Earthquake onto the Sandy Shocks, is easily going to be able to take this thing out, as Torkoal now comes in to set up the Sun for the Roaring Moon in the back. As Chandelure comes out, maybe hoping to take advantage of it. Reveals it's not Flash Fire, it's actually Infiltrator, trying to go through any type of subs that they want to set up. Goes for the Flamethrower on the Ariados sack, as now Roaring Moon is in. This is a very dangerous situation. Most of the time, most Chandelures are Spectre Scarf, and either way, they don't usually have anything to hit the Roaring Moon in this case, so get a free Dragon Dance off with the Photosynthesis attack boost from the Sun, as now this Prankster Snowball is actually going to be able to go for the Rain Dance. You can't go for Prankster Encore because it's a Dark type, but you are able to at least weaken this Roaring Moon's attack by getting rid of the Photosynthesis boost. As the Sableye is going to go for the low kick, which would ordinarily be a solid play, get this thing chipped down, but they are going to reveal the weakness policy is absolutely going to pay off massive dividends here, as they're going to swap out on another Earthquake into the Galarian Weezing, which a good play. I think Stefan probably should have seen that coming on for an Ironhead, but they go for the Ironhead now, and they get the flinch on the Weezing, which was going to go for a Strange Steam, which would have probably taken out this Roaring Moon at the range it was at. And at this point now, because this Roaring Moon is at +1 speed and I believe +3 attack, it's basically just going to be able to kill everything with the Earthquake. As the Sableye is going to go for the Prankster Recover, but with the Acrobatics, now that it has lost its item, being the weakness policy, it's going to do 100 base 10 power. And it's easily going to be able to take out the Sableye, and is going to give Stefan the 4-0 victory over Pokemaster. Very fast battle, as now we are into a Praetor versus Brandon already. The last game of the week. As we're going to see the Blunder Policy Hypnosis set on the Ninetales. But going up against Mons like Urshifu, Noivern, Bisharp, and the Cresselia, this is a very scary team that a Praetor is going into. And keep in mind, folks, that a Praetor has been up for 36 hours at this point. So he is not playing or going to be at the best mindset in this game. So Pyro Ball comes in. They do have the Aqua Berry, so that's pretty cool that they were able to make that work on this thing. Does go for the successful Thunder Wave on the Cinderace. It's going to go for the Volt Switch, get some big chip off. As now they're going to go into Ceruledge, gets the full para, which is pretty cool. As they are going to transform into a Dark type, get the Sucker Punch off, get huge damage. They do activate the Weak Armor, but because the Ceruledge is Life Orb, even though they do take out the Cinderace, they are going to go down to Life Orb themselves, which is quite unfortunate. As now Bisharp is going to come in, and Jirachi also comes in. Goes for the U-turn on the Bisharp into the Ninetales to get up the Snow. Bisharp is simply going to SD in their face, but the Blunder Policy is not going to activate because the Hypnosis is going to actually land on this Bisharp. As it gets the first turn Wake, though, on the Moonblast. That Moonblast, a little bit risky. Could have given him a Defiant boost there. But going to go for the Close Combat into the incoming Noivern. Going to try to go for the Terra Fairy on a potential Draco, but Brandon has prepared for this set as he goes for Taunt. He's not having any no retreats happening as the snow goes away, and because this Phalanx was at -1 from the close combat, the Hurricane is going to take it out despite being a neutral attack, as Ironhead is not going to be able to take out this Noivern. Does not get the flinch. And here you can see the effects of fatigue come in for a Praetor, as they're going to go hard out into their Vikavolt and simply die to the Dragon Pulse when they probably could have just gone for another Ironhead. Sucks themselves into Zen Headbutt, which now means that the Bisharp is free to come in, unfortunately, as the Mad Hatter is going to come in, set up the Psychic Surge, so at least it can't go for any party moves, but does go for the Night Slash into it, immediately knocking it out, as it is Jirachi versus the world. But like Pokemon likes to say, when there's a Jirachi, there's a way, and it is going to get several flinches in a row on this Bisharp. But on the very last turn, the turn where it would have killed this Bisharp on a flinch, the Bisharp actually does manage to break through and go for the big Night Slash, KOing this Jirachi and netting a very large victory for Brandon. Let's hope that right after this that Prayer managed to get some sleep. As we come into the last game of the week, we don't have the full footage from this, but this is from the Best versus Arcaniner fight, as we have League Gliscor versus Lead Jolteon. They're going to Terra Ice. But here's the thing, this is not, in fact, a Gliscor. It is actually a Scarf Hisuian Zoroark, and they are going to go for the Scarf Hyper Beam onto this Jolteon and get the KO, immediately taking out their Terra Captain turn 1.
Ooh, that Zoroark just keeps on putting in the work for DaBest. Even from Season 1, it continues this streak of confusing its opponents. Even on the first turn with a Hyper Beam, it's pretty crazy.
Yes, so from what we know about JustWeavile and Icedu's match, we know that it was a 3-0 victory. We do not have footage at this time, and we do not have the game results. So we're not exactly sure how those kills were netted. Based on the current kills that these Pokemon have, we can assume it wasn't the Darkrai. It was most likely the Iron Bundle, maybe the Lando, maybe a little bit of the Typhlosion that helped put in some work versus their team. They had a lot of ground types on Icedu's team, so I could definitely see how the bundle put in that much work based on what we can infer. And apart from that, we can take a look at the overall standings. As Foxy said, we're 3 weeks in, and we can kind of get an idea of how the season's going to go. And so far, Brandon has just been killing it, which is great for them, being undefeated currently. It is 3 weeks in, so still kind of early, but we can see that they and DaBest and Raymon are all doing very well, as well as Biradu and JustWeavile. We got a lot of 2-1s at the moment, all being separated from differential, and also 1s and 2s, so everybody's kind of canceling each other out. We even have 3-0 and 0-3 at the top and bottom, so it's just a matter of when are some of these other players going to start popping off. We need to see Pokemaster and Lionel start to put in some work. We want to see all of our coaches succeed, as well as a lot of the coaches like Prater and Icy Dude, all who previously made playoffs in Season 1, as well as Pokemaster. I need to start kicking into high gear. But at the same time, we do love to see coaches like Brandon, DaBest, and Notorious H.I.M, who were unable to make playoffs last season, be in the running now. So
absolutely. You know, a lot of draft leagues with, let's say, 12 players, you'd only have to be in the top 8. So you'd have to be in the top 2/3 to make it. This draft league, though, a little bit tougher. You have to be in the top 50%. So players really going to have to try to win and win big. Differential is key. As you can see, how many battles are tied in terms of their scores, and it all comes down to differential. Even the differentials are tied. We have a lot of ties. So as the weeks goes on, I'm sure that a lot of those ties will be broken up. Lots of different players going into different matchups, and we'll see what happens. But as for now, we'll see you guys in the next recap.